On this episode of Project Marsha, we're going to tackle the floor pans in our 1970 Plymouth Fury convertible. Well, welcome back to Project Marsha, and today we're going to attempt to install the floor pans that we've got for Project Marsha. Now, as we've talked about before on this project, this car is not about making it a concours restoration. It's about getting the car solid again. So as you can see, the floor pan's suffering in this car greatly. I mean, this side over here, you can, if I probably stepped on it hard enough, I could go right through the floor. But we've got a lot of perforation in both these front pans, lots of holes, so it's time for some new floors. I could have just taken some flat sheet metal and made some floor pans, but that takes a lot of time. There is some pans available. So this is what we've received, and these came from Classic to Current Fabrication, and there's their phone number if anybody's interested, website. I'm going to put all that information in the description, but these are the pans we've got. These are the two rear pans, and then our front pans here. So we're going to go ahead and get the floor cleaned up and get ready to install these pans. So one of the first things I need to do is get my shop vac out and give this a good cleaning. There's a lot of seam sealer that's still on the seams where the original pans were put in. I'm going to go ahead and scrape all that up so it's out of the way and it's not getting burned up while we're trying to cut the pans out. And then we're going to try and locate any brackets that are underneath that may need to be removed and installed in the new pans, so that they can be taken off first, drill the spot welds out of those and get those off the bottoms of the pans, and also look underneath for any fuel lines or brake lines that may be close to where we need to cut the old sheet metal out to get our new pans set in and make sure that we don't cut through anything that's important. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a minute and talk to you about a website that I've been involved with for a couple years now. It's called Mopar Connection Magazine. This is the only online daily Mopar magazine on the market, and it comes free to you in your email. You can catch all the videos of Project Marsha on there, plus a lot of the other project cars that they have going on. And one of the things that they have too, they have a really nice web store where they've got t-shirts for sale and other things that you can buy that will help support all these projects and also help keep the magazine coming to you free of charge daily. So go over to Mopar Connection Magazine at www.moparconnectionmagazine.com. Check out their web store and get yourself a shirt. Okay, so I've gone ahead and scraped out all of my seam sealer that was coming off in here, and I ran through here with the shop vac real quick. As you can tell, the under seat pan has a lot of surface rust to it, but it's not perforated in any place, so we're going to use a lot of Pour 15. We'll seal this all up so it keeps that rust from getting any worse than it is. Next step we need to do is take our floor pans that we have and get them to fit in where we need them to be. This one is a little bit long, as you can see, so we're going to need to make some adjustments to this. Now this side here, not as bad as that side. So basically what we want to do is leave as much of this original metal as we can and just use our pans as patches where we need them at, which is mainly from these two body plugs to our area here where the pan takes a 45-degree angle up, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to trim this pan down to where we need it to fit inside of here. And when we install this, we're just going to make it a lap joint over top of these old pans. We'll get everything cleaned up. We'll get it welded down nice and solid. Seam seal around it, and that'll give us a really nice repair on this floor. Again, we're not after a concours restoration on this vehicle. We're just trying to get this car solid so it can be a fun cruiser. Alright, so I've done a rough trimming on my pan. You can see I've taken quite a bit off of it. This whole upper section, this part of the floor here is still solid, so I didn't need this part. Just needed a little bit on the upturn just to get it to fit there. Doesn't come quite back all the way to this bulkhead here, but that's fine. Our metal here is still solid. We've got a couple of other little things I need to do. The ribs that are in the floor pan to keep it from wanting to oil can don't line up. So I've marked where they are, and I've got some dies that I can put in my bead roller. I actually had a couple of dies made that will match this same profile, so I'm going to use it for the first time. And just run my beads in there so that they'll line up when I put my floor pan in. These other ones I'm probably going to flatten out so that when the pan sits down it'll sit flat against the original pan. This angle here needs to have more of a roll to it. It's kind of got an abrupt break in it, like it more than likely was put in a break and just turned up. So I need to find a piece of pipe and use a hammer and get a gentle roll to that so that it matches the profile on the floor pan here, because we're going to leave. It's got to match up with where we cut the old pan out. So those are the few modifications we still need to make to this pan to get this to fit in. Once I've got those done, I'm going to mark the floor and then cut this section out of the floor. Okay, I got my pan trimmed down. See, trimmed it down even more. Took all this off the front since I don't need any of this upward swoop in here. It's all good solid metal still. I took a little bit of the curve out of here, and I did use a piece of pipe, and I got this to roll just a little bit more so it matches this profile pretty close. So I laid my pan in here, and just using a Sharpie I went around and traced out where the pan sets. And I came back and I moved in about an eighth of an inch, or not an eighth, about a half of an inch in, and drew my line in again. And that's the part of the pan that I'm going to cut out. So I'm going to use my plasma cutter to do that and go ahead and get this cut out of here. Alright, well there you got it. There's our old pan cut out. And here's our new pan ready to go in. That'll fit very nice on there. Once this is all welded in, I still have to, I still need to do my beads here and take care of some of these other ones. And then we'll go ahead and get this all set here where it needs to be. Probably weld this up until it gets close to here, and then we'll fold it over top of this lip, and then we'll weld it along the top of the pan there. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and get my grinder out, and I'm going to clean up this edge where I've got to weld everything, because we want a nice clean surface to do our welds to. And we're just going to do some stitch welds about every inch or so, or all the way around here. It doesn't have to be welded solid. And then after that's good, we'll clean up the welds a little bit and then go around with some primer and some seam sealer and get that set and ready to be coated. Alright, so I cleaned up all around my edges here, and I'm just going to hit it with some self-etching primer because the last time I was at my supply house, the weld-through primer was on back order. So we're going to have to use this just to get this covered up, and then we'll just grind away where we need to weld at and make sure we get a good clean weld. Now we'll let that set up for a little while and come back and we'll set our pan on here and start welding. Alright, our paint's dried. I went ahead and I put some primer on the back side of our pan too, where it's going to be sitting overlapping on our factory pans. So it's time to start welding this in. I'm going to start over here on this side, and we're going to see just how well this primer will take the weld. Move our pan back up a little bit. Let's get our pan set in where it needs to be. Alright, well there we have it. Floor pan number 1 installed. We got a nice, good solid floor pan again. So we're going to go ahead after we clean up around here. I'll seam seal around the entire perimeter of the pan just to make sure that we don't get any water that comes up from the underside of the car. And then we'll go ahead and redo our seam sealer along the factory seams. Get those all redone. We'll touch up any of these spots on the floor that have rust with 415 and probably clean everything really well before we install our lizard skin sound deadener and get that all put in here very shortly. So I'm going to continue on with these floor pans. It's pretty much going to be wash, rinse, and repeat for the other 3. If there's anything I come across that I think is important, I'll bring you back, but Until then, I'm going to wait until I get all three of the rest of the pans put in, and I'll bring you back and show you the whole floor finished up. Alright, as you can see, I've got the passenger side front pan in, and one thing I just wanted to show you, I said I'd bring it back if there was anything out of the ordinary that I came across. This pan was a little short on this side where the pan kicks up. This was rotted pretty good along here, so I went ahead and made a small piece that would fill that in. I've got to fill in a couple of small areas here and there at the front just to make it solid, and that got me fixed up there. I had extra metal from what I cut off the toe board section of that front pan, so I had metal left over to use, and not a big deal. We got it fixed up and it's all welded in. Okay, so I did have another area where I had to add a little bit here at the back of this floor pan. The floor pans are made up of three sections. You've got your under seat pan, which is back here, goes under the back seat. And then this pan here that drops down. And then you have a little short 8-inch pan that normally comes to right in here, I believe it was. And then your main floor pan, which goes all the way to the front. So this back section along here was rotted more than I wanted to try and attach this new metal to. So I just added a short strip along here from the metal I cut off one of the other pans, and was able to make it come about up to here, just to give it a place for this pan to sit onto. So we had a good, nice, solid surface to weld to. And in our tunnel area, there was a patch here that was put in previously, and it was actually, I can't find the piece now, but it was actually a piece of copper. It was screwed in and siliconed and everything else right in here. So I removed this section here, which had some rot, and put in another small piece here to make up what was bad there. So that's where we're at. I'm going to move on to the driver's side pan. We've got a couple of small areas here to fix along this side of the seat, and we'll get those done, get that front pan done. That'll leave the floor pans all finished. Alright, it is Friday morning, the Friday before the Holly Mo Party. So if you were out at the Holly Mo Party, you will have seen Project Marsha in the Mopar Connection booth, and maybe even stopped by and met me. But we've got all the floor pans in, driver's side, passenger side, front and rear, all in. Go around to this other side and show you there's a few other patches we had to make, which we were able to use some of the metal that was left over from the excess of the floor pans. I had 3 patches to put in here, one on the side of the tunnel here, and a small one on the side of the tunnel there at your footwell. We've got everything cleaned up and vacuumed out, and I'm going to go ahead and get these floors ready to be coated. And I'm going to show you what we're going to coat them with. Alright, so I mentioned I'm getting the floors ready to be coated, and I've got a few things I need to do. I've got to first prep the pans before the final coating can go on, and what we're going to use is a product called Por 15. Now, you've seen me use this before. This is designed to be applied directly over rusty metal surfaces. It encapsulates the rust and stops the rust from continuing on. But this is a great product. I've been using it for many years. Any of the rest of the floor pan, such as the new pans and the remaining parts of the floor that were left in there painted, I'm going to give a quick coat with an epoxy primer. This is a PPG product. It's from their commercial line. It's a really good epoxy primer. I use this on just about every project I do here in the shop. So then, after the floor pans are prepped and the seams are sealed up, we're going to use a product here that the fine folks from Summit Racing have stepped up and provided for us. And they've been a big supporter of Mopar Connection Magazine for quite a while now. So if you haven't done so, go to Summit Racing and shop there for your needs. But they've sent us not enough lizard skin sound deadener that we can do the entire floor pan. We'll do the insides of the quarter panels in the trunk, and we'll be able to probably do the insides of the wheel wells and the bottoms of the rocker panels. Now, I've not used this lizard skin product yet, so this will be a first time for me, so I'll bring you along as I go ahead and do the application on this. But first I got to get those pans prepped, so I'm going to go ahead and start painting the floors. Okay, I've got all my seam sealing done. Patch panels, left side, passenger side. I redid the edge of the factory seams where the pans come together in the back here, and anywheres along the edges where it came apart. It's very old, it comes off pretty easy. So we got that finished up. I've got everything cleaned up and blown out. I just got to wipe everything down, and we're going to spray our epoxy primer and leave this ready for the lizard skin application. And we've got the epoxy coat down on the floor pan. Covered up our new pans so they've got some protection. And had enough paint, so I sprayed the whole pan surface and everywhere in the rear pan that was still bare or original paint, just to give it a nice surface for that lizard skin to attach to. Alright, as I mentioned, we're going to use some new product that I've not used before. It's called lizard skin. I believe the application is pretty similar to other undercoating systems that I've used before. It kind of goes on in a heavy, thick coat. They suggest that you put on 2 coats of this at a 20 mil thickness, and they even send you a gauge so you can measure the thickness once you have it applied. First step, they tell us, and again, shout out to Summit Racing for setting us up with the lizard skin and the application kit that comes with the gun and the mixer to get all this stuff stirred up. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get all of our product mixed. Alright, so that gets our product all mixed up. Now, one of the things I do like about this product is it is a water soluble product, so it's an easy cleanup. That's one of the things that I didn't get out and get ready was my bucket of water, so I'm going to get a bucket of water. Alright, now we can put our mixer, set it in here, and let it soak so it doesn't set up on it. Now the next step is just fill up the gun, the cup for the gun, put everything together, and do a test spray. We're going to spray the under seat area back here so we can kind of get a test pattern and see how it sprays out, because you're not going to see this once cars, actually you're not going to see any of this once everything's back together. This will all be covered with the carpet, but we kind of want it to look nice. Well, there you have it. There's the application of our lizard skin sound deadener product. I have to say I like it. This would be a pretty good match to the factory sound deadening material that you often see inside the trunks on most of these old Mopars, sprayed onto the quarter panel to help get rid of that tinny sound. This would be a very close replication to that application that they did back in the 60s and 70s on these cars, so I can see myself using this product again. It goes on very easy. Again, it does come with everything you need. It's got a gauge to check your film thickness. They recommend a 40 mil thickness for your final product for your best sound deadening. So that would mean 2 coats of this product, 20 mil application each. So I'm going to get my gauge out and check it, and then we'll apply another coat. It says the way to let it sit between 1 to 2 hours before the second coat application, and then your final product will be what you have. Alright, well, we've got our second coat on of our lizard skin, and it's dried overnight, and I'm really pleased with the outcome and the appearance of this product. It's very similar to a product I used to use years ago that I've not been able to get. For some reason I haven't been able to find a supplier that carried it anymore, but it's pretty much the same product, and I used to love using it for the same reasons as I love this lizard skin, as the texture it lays down mimics the factory undercoating very closely, and it's an easy cleanup, being water soluble. So again, a big shout out to the guys down at Summit Racing for helping us out with sending us the lizard skin product and the application toolkit that we needed for it. And I want to also thank everybody who came out to Moparty and came over to the Mopar Connection booth and came to see Project Marsha and stopped by and said hi to me and Kevin. And that's going to be the end of this video on this episode of Project Marsha. Stay tuned. We move on to more exciting things happening with this project coming up real soon.